Okay. Cutting my own hair really isn't cutting it, This is weird. I'm really used to recording podcasts at this point, but recording solo is just so different. Even if this is going to be way more edited than a podcast episode. Today we have a slightly different video again. This is one of the first times I just simply turn on the camera and talk to it. Today I will be reflecting a little bit on my language learning progress and my multilingual lifestyle, or whatever you like to call it. So let's just chat. I used to do these language learning updates on my blog, where I have been writing about learning different languages since 2015. And the last time I did that was, I think, February of this year, where I made a very late New Year's post and I made up a very stupid justification for it. Link in the description below. Every couple of months, and I pick 3 months because it fits perfectly into the year and with the seasons, I pick one language to focus on learning, either a new one or one to improve, a language to maintain so that it doesn't slip away that quickly, maybe to get to some sort of better level as well, but that's going to be the secondary language. And I also pick one to just have fun with, so I might do some Duolingo, I might look up some textbooks, just have fun with it and learn a tiny bit that I will probably forget in 3 months, or that might turn into my next focus language. And with the past couple of months, I've basically been focusing on Hebrew and Polish, which are sort of my two true love languages at the moment. I know it's self-contradictory, I should not say true love if it changes every couple of months or years, but it is what it is. So at the moment, apart from all the daily things I'm doing, I'm starting to consume media, which supposedly is a good thing, but I'm not at the level where I can understand native speaker talking about daily things in native speed yet. So what I'm doing is I'm watching lots of YouTube videos that I don't understand. And I know that sounds extremely stupid because I'm not going to get a thing from that, even with subtitles. But somehow I'm just really enjoying the process of processing this language in my head. All the materials that I don't fully understand, I can't fully break down, and pick out the parts that I actually can understand. And recently I started watching this broadcast channel that is also on YouTube called Kan, which means here. Here and there I just figure, oh hey, I know this word. I know most of these words, simple words. I learnt the word for vaccination a couple of days ago from my Hebrew lesson. I recognize all the loan words from European languages. So it's actually been extremely fun, and the result is I'm focusing on training myself to tell a word from another word, because basically when you're learning a language, one of the hardest part of listening to a foreign language is to, find out where the words are. All you hear is a jumbled mess of sounds of that language. And with this unusual habit of watching videos that I don't understand, I'm actually making good progress in that arena. So now I think I'm more able to guess where the words are, guess where the nouns and verbs are, even though I don't know what those nouns and verbs actually mean. And the second weird thing that I would normally not do, but I'm doing right now for Hebrew, is learning vocabulary that I don't need. So if you're one of my language students, I strongly recommend against doing this. So normally I tell students, and I tell anyone basically, that we language learners should focus on vocabulary that is immediately useful to us, or vocabulary that would help us talk about or use the language in topics that we are passionate about. Otherwise, there's no good reason for the word to stick in our heads if we don't care about the word. But with Hebrew, things are so much different than usual because of the structure of this language. So if you don't know, Hebrew, like other Semitic languages such as Arabic, has a system of sort of consonant roots, where words are formed by adding letters, sounds, consonants and vowels to a root of usually 3 consonants. For example, the word for the noun work is avoda, and the 3 consonant roots are ain, beit, and dalet, A, B, D. And then a ton of related words, nouns and verbs and everything are built upon this basis. For example, the verb work is lavod, so avada. Beit is the same with veit. And if I make someone work, that would be ma'abid. So it's lots of fun. And back to the thing about learning useless words. So I've been using Drops a lot. I'll link my review of the Drops app below. So normally Drops is an app that's good for intermediate and above learners because it sort of covers all your bases. It includes a wide variety of vocabulary from all the different topics that you probably don't care about. And normally I would say I should not be learning all those weird, useless words. But learning these useless words in Hebrew, for example, the word for blender, me'abed mazon, actually helped me find out more of these relationships between the words and how the words are all built upon each other. So this word me'abed mazon, me'abed actually comes from the same root as avodah, so it's something to do with work, and me'abed means to process. So learning all these words and finding out how these words relate to each other has really helped me really internalize this very special, unique root system and how the different word forms contrast with each other and gain different meanings. So that basically is what I've mostly been doing on a daily basis. I do lots of drops as much as I can, 10 minutes per day. I do Closemaster, which is a website or an app where you basically fill in the blanks and it forces you to use the language in context. I do maybe like 100 sentences, new or old, per day in Hebrew and Polish each. Also, I'm still working on Glossica. I'm also linking my review of it below, and it's really piling up as I move along in this language. And every day I'm getting maybe 200, 300 sentences to review, and to be honest, it's a bit freaking me out. Which brings me to the core of this video. What I've not been doing. I have lots of learning materials that I could be doing every single day. I have an Asimov book. I am using an online Hebrew course that is really good for reading and listening. I sometimes take Hebrew lessons with a teacher, but the problem is my daily routine, or just my life in general, is in a bit of disarray. Because ever since I left student life, almost a year ago, my god, I have been plunged into this very weird world where everything's still closed, the economy is terrible. I've been able to find lots of different kinds of work that I can do. Writing music, teaching students, making the podcast, and I honestly love doing every single part of these things. But whenever I see how long my to-do list is, I sort of have a mini mental breakdown because I really don't deal well with stress. By that, I don't mean I can't work under stress, but when I'm under stress, I can't multitask. I can't do any other things. So when I have a deadline approaching, I basically only think about that one thing all day long until the deadline's over. And whenever I want to do other things, my subconscious is always like, oh no, you gotta go back to that thing. I'm just in constant panic mode whenever I have something I have to finish. So what's been happening in my language learning life is that since I have so many deadlines to meet constantly, I can only do the small things such as little apps and everything like that don't feel like a huge commitment in time. But whenever I want to do something like, okay, read a new chapter in this textbook, my subconscious starts urging me to go back to whatever is the priority right now. So it's honestly not easy, but obviously I'm trying to deal with it. I realized this problem a while ago, but it wasn't as bad because I was a student then, and as a student my life had direction. I knew that I actually had to focus on one thing. After I was done with that, I could do other things that I'm passionate about. But now that I'm doing 10 things at once that I all love, I'm giving myself more stress than I can take. This is weird because I never felt stressed as a school student when everyone else was. But now that I'm sort of alone, I'm having to figure out how to properly manage my life in a way that I never have before. But back to talking about Hebrew. So I haven't done much, but I am enjoying every minute of doing those things. For example, as I said, I'm watching lots of videos. I try to do some reading on platforms like ReadLang, but the problem with those websites is that they have a very lackluster collection of Hebrew texts. So I have to find my own stuff to read, which is not easy. And to be honest, the biggest difficulty with Hebrew reading is not purely because it's a foreign script, but it's because of how the script works. So Hebrew is a very content-focused language, if you haven't noticed already. It's more complex than that, but to put it simply, when you write Hebrew, you basically only write the consonants, and you have to guess the vowels from context and from the vocabulary you already know. And the problem with that is a single word, a single spelling, can refer to several different words, which can have completely different meanings or can be of different parts of speech. And when I'm reading, I have to keep guessing what word it is. And even if I just look up the dictionary, I have to go down several entries to find what the right one is. Or I have to finish the entire sentence before I can start putting together what means what and who's doing what, etc. Let's compare this to alphabetical languages. Let's say, I don't know, Norwegian or Swedish. When I read those languages, even if I don't understand most of it, I can totally skim through and easily find words that I know, because for one, it's an alphabet that I know, and two, it's an alphabet. So when I'm sort of mind reading it, not mind reading, I mean something like reading it in my mind, not actual mind reading, that would be too cool. I have a flow that I can maintain while I'm reading a text, and that flow really helps me get into the text itself, no matter if I'm understanding, 30% or 70% or 90% of the text. With Hebrew, not so much. Whether it's a text that I mostly understand or whether it's a text that I only understand 40%, I can't achieve that flow because I'm constantly guessing what vowels are supposed to be inserted between the consonants. And this problem also prevents me from finding materials that is suitable for me to read, because when I'm Googling something or when I see some article on some website, I can't figure out for the life of me whether it's at the right level for me. I can't skim a passage, and even if I see a word that I know, I might actually not know it. So that has really been a bummer, not being able to read as much as I'd like to. Maybe that's why I'm enjoying the listening part so much. Despite that, my listening abilities aren't really the best either. In fact, 2 months ago, my Hebrew teacher left a comment saying that my listening abilities leave something to be desired. And that really bugged me because she was right, obviously. I couldn't understand most of what she was saying, even if I already knew some of the words that she was saying. Even if I knew every single word in the sentence, I couldn't infer the meaning of this entire sentence immediately. And that really discouraged me from getting another lesson again. I kind of wanted to improve my listening, even just a bit, before I talk to her again. I finally convinced myself to take another lesson a couple of weeks ago, which is 2 months from the previous lesson. But I hope that I improve somehow. Well,
إيمك شمعت ببخشة تجديلي هايم شباوتي أولو.
Oh, speaking of which, I should really start talking to myself. I love doing that, but it's just really hard habit to get into. But back to reading. I have been trying to read more in my languages in general. I used to be an avid reader, but ever since I got into university, I sort of dropped that habit and replaced it with studying instead, or reading music and stuff like that. Now that I have a bit more time, or theoretically, I'm trying to read more and force myself to take up that habit again. The main thing I'm trying to get through is, well, actually not get through, but catch up with Resonate. I haven't mentioned it on this channel before, but it's the first literary magazine in written Cantonese, which I really love the idea of. But again, I lost the habit of reading a few years ago. Now I'm trying to get through it little by little, and literature is a bit too foreign to me at this point. I'm currently on the October issue. I will catch up eventually if I just spend more time on it. Besides that, I've been reading this book that I ordered all the way from Poland. I actually ordered, I think, like 2 books from Poland and 2 ebooks, etc. This one is called Łamcie do mózgu, written by a YouTuber, Radek Kodarski. He's a very popular YouTuber, teaches just all sorts of random stuff. He wrote this book about how we learn, which is something that I'm really interested in. Well, you might have guessed. And it's all about how our brain works and how we learn effectively. Of course, there's going to be technical vocabulary in this, but I think I'm at a point with my Polish where I'm comfortable reading non-fiction like this kind at this level. Sometimes I look up words, maybe 1 or 2 per paragraph or page, but most of the time I can just guess what's happening. It's mostly the different variations of the verbs that they have in Polish, whereas technical vocabulary is usually mostly cognates or loan words that I would recognize from English, or it could be concepts that I just don't know altogether, in which case he would totally explain them. The last thing I am trying to do more, ironically, is to watch more Netflix. I know that everyone has been watching a crap ton of Netflix in the past year, but I just can't. I feel too much guilt whenever I watch, I don't know, more than half of 1 hour of Netflix. It just feels like a huge time commitment to me, even if it isn't. But I do recognize that Netflix is a really good learning resource, or just a way to relax in general, which I absolutely need. I have been paying for Language Link with Netflix, which I wholeheartedly recommend, and I've been using it to study stuff in Polish, in Hebrew, in German, Swedish, everything. A bit of everything, really. Sometimes, if I don't want to study intensively, I can just sit back and watch Dark on Netflix.
Please don't spoil me.
Which is in German, or watch some random Norwegian or Danish series that I understand maybe like 80% off. In those cases, I would do exactly the same thing I did in my previous video, which is sort of just take it in and analyze it a bit in my head in real time, or repeat some of it and just let the language wash over me. I need to think a bit more about what I'm planning in the future couple of months. I think my focus is still going to be the same. I'm still very much into Hero and Polish at the moment, and I'm really enjoying using my Taiwanese skills in lots of different contexts. I'm not fluent in it yet, but I think I've got a very good level where I can use it in a variety of situations. So I think this sort of trio of languages is still going to be my focus going forward. And as I said, I'm still having problems with understanding Hebrew because it's so different and so complex. Ironically, I think my speaking skills are better than my listening skills. I mean, not literally better, but compared to the average learner with this level of listening skills, my speaking skills are much better. I think mainly thanks to Glossica, training that fluency, forcing it into me. But I think I have to balance that a bit by really working hard on my input skills. I'm still quite keen on the idea of language exchanges, but after all, I'm not native in English, and well, it's somewhat difficult to find a Hebrew speaker who's learning Cantonese, to say the least. So I've sort of run into a roadblock in that area. I actually found someone when I posted my Hebrew video on Reddit who was willing to help me just out of charity. But it's been a while and we still haven't managed to get it going yet. So let's see how it goes in the future. So that's all for this video. Thanks again for watching. If you got to this point, I'm assuming you enjoyed the video. So don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel for more very random language learning content. And also tell me in the comments below how you manage a regular and consistent routine in your language learning and how you balance it with your either work or studies. Stay tuned. Cheers!